a video on tripe. So I went out for my birthday, and I went to an Italian restaurant and it was beautiful, and I had slow braised tripe, um, Tuscan style, which I haven't had tripe in years. I thought it was kind of quite bland, but as I was in this restaurant, I kind of thought, well, they know how to cook, they'll know how to cook tripe properly. And it was delicious. Served it on toast as well, and it came with some green parsley sauce with what we call it in it with gherkins and other things in. It's kind of quite a sharp piquant sauce, more like a relish type of thing. But it was really nice, and I kind of thought I said to myself, I will have a go at cooking it at home. So I have what we've got. We've got about 500 grams worth of tripe. It's not cheap. It's tripe. That cost me £6. So there's about 500 grams. So £12 a kilo, or maybe £11 a kilo, something like that. I can't quite remember what she charged me in the shop. It's not something you can get kind of quite easily anymore. So not particularly cheap, which was one of the things that when people talked about tripe and offal, they say it's cheap. I don't necessarily think it is. Probably down to the fact that there's a lot of work with you have to do to tripe to get it clean and palatable. Whereas opposed to something like kidneys or liver, you just kind of don't have to do much with them at all, and livers and kidneys tend to be pretty cheap, and so does heart as well. So it's cooked, I'm sure. Let's just try it. Yeah, it's tender already. There's not much of a flavour to it. I'm not sure how much it's going to disappear and cook down in the pan, but anyway, so I've done 3 tins of tomatoes and a couple of onions and made like a tomato sauce, and then I've saved back 1 tin's worth of the tomato, chopped tomatoes, not the juice. The juice has gone out from the juice from this tin of tomatoes has gone in there. I've cooked it down, all down, kind of quite slowly, seasoned it. I probably want a bit more seasoning, but we'll kind of do that when we're kind of cooking. Put this pepper in there, and then we're going to cook it down slowly for about half an hour, and we're going to see what happens to it. I've got some thyme from the garden as well, so that can go in as well. So 2 sprigs of thyme, and then we're going to see if we need to or want to add anything else. So what we're going to do, we're going to do it there. It was done in kind of quite long strips in the restaurant, so I think that'll be a good idea. We don't want to cut it too small because I think it has a habit of disappearing to nothing. So it depends where you buy your tripe, but some places you have to cook it yourself. You can they clean it for you, but then you have to cook it for a couple of hours in some poach it in some water. But I don't have to do that, I don't think. So when it's honeycomb tripe, there are different types of tripe. I'm just cutting around the wire. I should just really get the wire out of the way, shouldn't I? With my tripey fingers. And then we'll see. We'll have a look at it after half an hour. But it's just going to be a simple case of bringing it up to temperature and then turning it down so it's like a slow cook. So we don't boil the tripe to bits, and we have time to infuse the flavour of the tomatoes and the thyme into the tripe and kind of lessen the tripe flavour to it. And then I'll turn that on. So then the wires come down again. I should have charged my phone earlier. And then we'll see about adding anything else. I don't think so. I think that'll be okay. I think that's about the right amount of liquid and about the right amount of tripe. Yeah, so I went out to this restaurant by myself because I looked at the menu and seen that it was Tuscan week, and they were having on slow braised tripe, and they had cod roe arancini, which were delicious, and slow braised ox cheeks with chicory and it was all beautiful. But the only problem is you end up going to restaurants and people don't want to sit there and watch you eat tripe, even though it's your birthday. They think it's vile. So I went by myself and I had a lovely time. which I thoroughly recommend more people should do. If there's somewhere you want to go in life, you shouldn't wait for other people to want to go or be ready or to have to coax them into going. You should just go by yourself. Anyway, so enough of me about ranting about poor choice in friends and their squeamish stomachs. So bring it up to not gently bring it up to a boiling temperature, but we're not going to boil it, and then we'll turn it right down and do a slow braise on the back of the stove. Is it braise? No, braising is in the oven. It's stewing on top of the stove. So braising is when you cook something like this covered in the oven, and stewing is when you cook something on top of the stove in a pan with lid. There we go, that's today's lesson. So then there's a slow braise. I think it'll melt slightly because it's quite gelatinous, and then we'll see how it tastes. So need some more salt in now. Salt crystals or salt rock salt, because it's going to melt over time. Otherwise, if we instantly want to season something, we use free running salt, like table salt, like that, so that dissolves straight into things straight away. But if we're not bothered about something not taking a little bit of time to dissolve, then we use rock salt. And I think rock salt or kosher salt or sea salt is a much better quality of salt. The free running salt tends to have other things in it. But anyway, so up to temperature, slow cook for an hour, and we'll see what it looks like. It's had about an hour and a half, so it's now super tender, if not a little watery, which I was looking back on the pictures, and it was the tripe that I had at the restaurant was a little bit gone like that. So obviously a lot of liquid comes out of the tripe. That's nice. I put more pepper in as well, and some more salt. I think let's try a bit of tripe, because things like this are better warmed up the day after. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it an hour and a half cooking, a slow simmer, and then when I come in later on tonight after I've been swimming, pretty much the story of my life, isn't it? I'll have it for my dinner tonight, so it'll have cooled, and then we'll be heating it back up, and then that'll kind of like almost like be like having it the day after type of thing. Let's try the type. Try the type. Can't say it. Let's try the tripe. It's good. It's good, and I think those tomatoes that I saved, what we'll do is we'll put those in when we heat it back up, and then that'll just lift the flavour of the tomatoes. I have found that recently, that if you cook tomatoes for a long time, it tastes tomatoey, but it's like a stewed tomato flavour. Now if you keep some of the tomatoes back and stir them in and heat them up, it kind of lifts the tomato kind of flavour of a pasta sauce. Right, so we'll let that go cold, and then we'll reheat it tonight, and we'll have it on some sourdough, fried sourdough, so like a fried bread type thing. So like a bit like a bruschetta, but it'll be nice and crispy, and what we call it, and cooked in some kind of animal fat. That's what we'll do. It'll be delicious. Right, so we're going to reheat this. I think it's a little bit watery, so there's that. I want it thicker than that, so I'm not going to boil it and evaporate the liquid off that way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it through a colander like this, and then that will catch the excess moisture, will fall into the pan, and we'll just, well, the extra liquid will be in the pan, and then we'll reduce that liquid rather than boiling everything up and boiling the tripe and the onions to bits, which is not what I want to do. You know, I just want to make it a little bit thicker. We don't have to. We could just strain it out this way, get rid of the excess throw the excess moisture away, but its flavour is that, and I don't want to get rid of it, and it'll just intensify it just that little bit more. So I'm trying to do this without making too much of a mess. See, that's a better consistency there. So we kind of want to evaporate off some of that liquid. Bit of a faff. I don't think having the sauce thicker in the first place would have made a difference. I need something to put that on. This is why I always end up with loads of washing up, because I'm always faffing around with this. So we'll put that on this plate, and then we'll heat this. Just get the bits off the side. Made a mess on the stove. What a surprise. So we'll just heat that and reduce that down. Get the bits off the side and then they don't burn. And then we'll put there'll be a little bit of juice collecting on that plate, so we'll pour that in as well. And then we'll heat up the tripe, and then we'll add back in those tomatoes. But it won't take long, just 5 minutes or so, just to evaporate off that excess water. We could just throw it away, like I say, but I don't want to waste it, and it will just intensify the flavour just that little bit more. Right, so the majority of that liquid has been removed and it's thickened up, so we can put the tripe and tomato back in like that. And heat that up gently. Where's that bit of thyme? So what we'll do with the thyme is we'll just pick the leaves off the thyme, because we don't want to eat that woody bit. There's the other one. There's another bit in there somewhere. We'll find it as it heats up. But I just wanted to show you what it looked like when it was reduced. There is a danger when you reduce things that it changes the seasoning. So you've just got to be careful. If something was particularly well seasoned, so it was salty enough or spicy enough or sweet enough, by evaporating off liquid you intensify those flavours. So if you have a danger of something becoming too salty or over sweet or overly spicy or overly hot. But anyway, so those fresh herb tomatoes can go in just to kind of lift the flavour of the tomato sauce, and then we'll heat it up gently, and then we might have to use a slotted spoon just to dish out the what we call it, dish out the tripe. Just in case any more liquid wants to come out the tripe, we'll just use a slotted spoon. But we'll have intensified that. It just won't take long. You just need a couple of minutes on a relatively gentle heat. We don't want to boil it. But anyway, we'll be back when it's ready. Alright, it's hot. So, no, I'm not going to put it on the toast just yet. I'm going to taste it, because I want to take a picture and I don't have to faff around. So, I've re-seasoned it with more pepper. It's got a unique flavour, hash tripe, but it's a bit bland. I don't know why people dislike it. I don't know why people dislike it. It's probably the thought of what it actually is, rather than the actual taste, because there's not that much taste to it. That's good, isn't that? That's good. It's going to be even nicer on some fried bread. And I suppose it's an Italian-ish dish. It's not like we're talking bruschetta, but fried bread's nicer than bruschetta, especially if it's homemade sourdough. But anyway, there we go. Delicious. I can't imagine anyone will ever make it. It's kind of quite difficult to get tripe these days. They just don't. There's not a market for it. But anyway, delicious. Not that cheap, but interesting all the same. A success.